Shocking message, receive God's blessings this September at midnight. Don't miss out. The night air hummed with an otherworldly tension, as if the universe itself held its breath, waiting for something monumental to unfold. Streetlights flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows on the cracked pavement of Maple Street. Whispers of a message had spread like wildfire through the sleepy town, igniting fears and hopes alike. A blessing at midnight? Are you kidding me? Lila muttered, her heart pounding like a drum. The text she received, bold and inky, promised wonders, divine favor bestowed to those brave enough to dare the hour. Every face in the cramped cafe gleamed with wide-eyed wonder, tension swirling like fog. Old Mr. Patterson, his hands trembling like fallen leaves, declared, "I heard it's an omen. This town has seen dark days and the midnight blessing could turn it all around." But what kind of blessing? There was a heavy air of doubt mixed with anticipation. Many stared into their cups, silently wondering if the mystique of it all was just a cruel trick. As midnight approached, Lila's chest tightened. The clock ticked down, echoing ominously in her ears, matching the frantic pounding of her heart. The walls seemed to bend as the lights dimmed suddenly, casting the cafe into a surreal twilight. People shifted uneasily in their seats, and gasps erupted. Was that a flash of light just outside? The crowd instinctively moved toward the windows, breath caught in their throats, watching with wide eyes as a luminous figure materialized on the sidewalk. Its glow illuminated the entire street, revealing startled expressions across the gathered onlookers. "Is it an angel?" someone whispered. "Or a ghost?" A chorus of gasps filled the room, fear blending with awe. "Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the midnight chime echoed, the figure took a step forward, and the air crackled with static. Lights swirled, swirling in patterns Lila couldn't comprehend, and a voice, deep and resonant, pierced through the night. "Those who seek the light, step forward." Panic rippled through the crowd. Some clutched each other in fear. Others, driven by desperation and curiosity, took tentative steps to the door, unable to resist the pull of the unknown. What would happen next? What was this mysterious figure promising? Would they find solace or horror? As each second stretched into eternity, the question hung in the air like a desperate prayer. The night was far from over and secrets lurked around every corner, waiting to be unveiled. The luminous figure drew closer, its ethereal light casting a warm glow that contrasted sharply with the cold dread pooling in Lila's stomach. The cafe erupted in whispers, voices trembling. "What should we do?" someone gasped. But Lila felt the magnetic pull of the entity. It was as if someone had pressed the fast-forward button on her heart. She couldn't just stand there. Before she realized it, her feet were moving toward the door, driven by a force she couldn't name. The air buzzed around her, and with each step, her heart raced faster. Behind her, whispers grew frantic. A few brave souls followed, their apprehension evident but overshadowed by an innate curiosity. Outside, the street felt charged, like the calm before a storm. The figure stood silhouetted against the night, its features blurred and indistinct. But the voice echoed again, louder this time, more insistent. "Step into the light. Embrace your destiny." A chill ran down Lila's spine. Destiny? What was this being asking of them? The street was enveloped in a heavy silence, broken only by the distant rattle of brambles in the wind. The crowd outside the cafe had grown, forming a tight circle that widened as more dared to venture forward. From behind, whispers shifted to cries. "What if it's a trap?" someone shouted, causing heads to turn. The balance between courage and fear faltered, and suddenly Lila felt exposed, torn between the group's collective skepticism and her own burning need to understand. Then, without warning, the glowing figure raised its hand. Light exploded in brilliant colors, washing over Maple Street like a wave. Lila felt warmth wrap around her, but with it came an unsettling doubt. The figure began to speak, its voice piercing through the chaos. This is your moment of choice. Inside this light, you have the power to reveal your deepest desires or face your greatest fears. Gasps echoed from the crowd, and Lila swallowed hard. Part of her thrilled at the idea of clarity, of knowing what lay ahead. But what if it exposed something dark, something painful? She looked around the townsfolk she'd grown up with, caught between wonder and terror, their faces illuminated by both fascination and horror. Is it real? A young woman's voice trembled. How do we know this isn't some trick? Do you want to find out? Lila whispered to herself, her senses sharpening. The figure seemed to respond, an encouraging nod, though its face remained shrouded. One by one, hesitant souls stepped forward, drawn closer to the swell of mystic light, a mix of hope and fear reflected in their eyes. Old Mr. Patterson reached out, then drew back his hand as if burned. What if we regret it? He murmured, his voice barely audible against the pulse of the crowd, but Lila moved closer, a binding urge guiding her. You can't move forward without discovering what this means for you. She took a deep breath. We have to know. As she stepped toward the figure, the ground trembled beneath her feet, the light flaring brighter, a siren call to her very soul. Behind her, she could hear the subtle shift in the crowd, a blend of resolve and fear, the gathering inching closer to a breaking point. Lila squared her shoulders as the energy enveloped her, and for a fleeting moment, she believed she could see fragments of everyone's dreams flickering within the shimmering glow. What awaited her at the heart of this light? Did their deepest fears await them alongside their desires? The air felt thick with anticipation, and as she stepped into the luminescence, the crowd held its breath suddenly. A loud crack echoed from somewhere deep in the shadows, a dissonant sound shattering the moment of unity. Lila turned, heart racing, fear clawing at her throat. Just beyond the reach of the glowing figure, a dark shape moved. Something old, something very powerful stirred. What was it? And what would it mean for those who dared to seek the light? The dark shape pulsed with an ancient energy, its very presence sending shivers through the gathered crowd. Lila's senses were on fire. The flickering light around her seemed to dim as she instinctively backed away from the figure, now trembling in the luminescent glow. She couldn't tell if the crack had come from the entity or something lurking in the shadows. The crowd gasped again as the darkness stepped into the fringes of the glowing brilliance, revealing twisted features that looked almost human, elongated limbs, hollow eyes reflecting the light not with warmth, but with a malignant hunger. An unsettling whisper slithered from its lips, wrapped in shadows. Fools, you think the light will save you? The spectre's words hung heavy in the air, the tension thick enough to slice through. A collective shiver trembled through the crowd as they exchanged fearful glances, unsure of how to respond. Some took a hesitant step back, others braced themselves, drawn by that insatiable curiosity that had led them to step outside in the first place. Lila's heart hammered violently, drowning out her thoughts. She felt the warmth of the glowing figure beckoning her forward, promising safety and clarity. But now, confronted by the dark specter, questions flooded her mind. Was the light truly a path to destiny, or was it a trick, designed to lure them in? I command you. The figure of light roared, its glowing form shifting shades, as though morphing to battle the encroaching malevolence. Leave this place. They seek the truth. What truth? The dark figure taunted, laughter echoing like a distant storm, and Lila felt the chill race down her spine. What truth can they handle? Look at them. It gestured wildly towards the crowd, its dark fingers gliding over the anxious faces. They're not ready. They can't even face their own shadows. Lila's mind reeled. Memories of her own fears flickered in her thoughts. All those moments of doubt, the sneaky whispers of inadequacy, the scars from disappointments, all the things she'd buried deep were suddenly rushing back, threatening to swallow her. But even within that rising tide of panic, one thought pierced through: it was time to confront the darkness. "Please. Don't let fear dictate our choices," Lila shouted, her voice firm despite the chaos boiling within her. It felt like a spark lighting a fire in the crowd. Heads turned toward her, uncertainty woven with curiosity. If we truly want to know if we want to live fully, we have to face what scares us. And we won't be alone. A murmur broke out, swelling into a chorus of voices, some gaining strength from her resolve. Others still hesitated, eyes darting between the figure of light and the dark shape, caught in a web of conflicting desires. The dark entity roared, a sound that seemed to cleave through the night. "You are only meat and bones. I will consume every fear you hide." From behind it, shadows danced along the edges of reality, twisting and writhing like a living nightmare, hungry for despair, but Lila didn't back down. She could feel the light's energy pulsing within her, intertwining with her resolve. She turned towards the figure of light, seeking guidance that she desperately needed. "Show us our strength," she cried, and as if in response, the light shimmered, blazing even brighter, a halo surrounding her. The air crackled, and Lila felt the vibration of countless hearts pounding in unison. They all wanted to embrace the truth, no matter how terrifying it might be. And just as the dark figure howled in fury, a wave of warmth surged from the glowing figure, engulfing Lila and the crowd, granting them clarity. She could see glimpses of pain and joy swirling together, hopes and fears crystallizing into shapes of potential. The moment climaxed. It was as if time stood still, holding its breath as the crowd faced the shadows. What awaited them in that trembling space between promise and peril? Then came the shattering sound of laughter from the darkness, echoing dreadfully through the gathered, slicing at their emerging strength. "Only fear awaits you." The dark figure's eyes glinted, and Lila sensed the truth in its words. They had a choice, and now there was no turning back. What lay beyond that shimmering light? Was it salvation or utter destruction? The time to decide had come. The moment hung heavy, thick with anticipation. In that tight space, shadows flickered and tore at the edges of Lila's resolve. The dark figure, its twisted features shifting, seemed to draw strength from the fear it sowed among the crowd. Lila felt their collective heartbeat quick, anxious, uncertain. It mirrored her own, pounding fiercely against her ribcage. "Feel the hunger within you," the dark entity taunted, its hollow eyes scanning the faces in the crowd, feeding on their fear. "You can't fight what you are. Your weaknesses make you delicious prey." Gasps rippled through the assembly. Lila could see them trembling, could feel the doubt snaking through their hearts. Some even took steps backward, unwilling to face that which was rising within them. But Lila stood firm, drawing on the light's warmth that seemed to surge through her veins. "No," she called out. "This is our moment. We're not just meat and bones, we're more than what we fear." The figure of light pulsed next to her. It was a beacon, illuminating the darkness, revealing not only the outside peril but the battles buried deep inside each person in that gathering. "Look!" Lila commanded, raising an arm to point towards the figure of light. "It's showing us our truth. We must face what's inside us, the doubts, the pain, not run from it." Taking a deep breath, she pressed forward. "I won't hide. I'm ready to confront what I fear." The crowd stilled, and for a brief moment, the whispers of doubt faded. Some stepped into the light, their faces illuminated with a flickering mix of fear and determination. Others remained rooted to the ground, minds wrestling with the grip of their own insecurities. Lila recognized that fight. She too had been there, grappling with shadows of her own, but then the darkness roared, a guttural sound laced with both amusement and rage. "You think you can conquer me? I am the shadow that lives within every heart." It lunged forward, a mass of swirling darkness that stretched like a hungry maw, aiming to snuff out the flickering hope that was growing among them. Then came a crashing moment, a clash of light and shadow. The glow intensified, swathing Lila and the people around her in a comforting embrace as the dark figure writhed in frustration. "Your light is weak. You are fighting a losing battle. Yet within that turmoil, Lila found an anchor. She felt the warmth radiate through her, a comfort that reminded her of moments unlost, tiny victories over her fears. Together, she shouted, "We don't face this alone. We can stand united against this darkness." An unexpected energy sparked through the crowd. Those who had hesitated began to step forward, hands lacing together, gathering strength in their connection. "We're stronger together," they chanted, their fear lessened by resolve. Suddenly, the dark figure shrieked, a sound that grated against every nerve. It pulled back as if wounded, the shadows swirling frantically as if instincts caught in a trap. "You will regret this." It howled, jagged edges of darkness clashing as if it might shred apart before their very eyes, and then a shimmering intensification filled the air, bathing the scene in vibrant colors. Lila gasped, her heart racing. She could see faces changing, laughter breaking through their fear, and hope spiraling upward like fireworks against the night sky. But the dark figure wouldn't go easily. Just before retreating, it hissed one last word: "Deceivers." A sinister smirk twisted across its features before it vanished into a haunting cloud of darkness. Lila stood amidst the crowd, breathless but emboldened. There would be no return to ignorance. They had tasted freedom, however fleeting. But what would happen when the shadows regrouped? What price would they pay for the light? Would their newfound strength hold against the looming threat that now watched from the depths of the night? As the crowd exhaled, filled with newfound purpose and trembling hope, Lila's heart began to thud again, louder, insistent. The darkness would rise again, and they might not be so lucky next time. Yet as the echoes of the confrontation faded, a cold shiver slithered down Lila's spine. The crowd's excitement morphed, giving way to tense whispers. They were all looking at one another, uncertainty creeping back like the shadows they had just fought against. Faces that held a glimpse of resolve were now marred by doubt and anxiety. "What if it comes back?" A voice broke through the collective murmur, trembling. Lila turned, locking eyes with the anxious speaker, a young woman, her hands balled into fists at her sides. "We just defeated it. We're strong together," Lila urged, though her own heart drifted into a chaotic whirl of worry. But it wasn't defeated. It fled. Another man shouted, his face a mix of anger and fear. "It's still out there, watching us. What if it tries to tear us apart from within next time?" Those words hung heavy in the air, swirling like fog in their minds. Lila's body felt like stone, her grip tightening on the need to keep everyone together. "We have to stay strong. We know now that we can confront our fears. We can resist it if we support one another." But doubt dripped like poison. The whispers turned louder, spiraling into murmurs of defeat. Panic spread through the group like wildfire, igniting the fear that had once been tucked away. Lila felt herself slipping. Then the earth trembled beneath their feet, sending a shockwave of fear through the crowd. They recoiled, eyes darting as the air itself felt charged with an ominous energy. "What is happening?" Someone screamed, crumbling to the ground, clutching their hands over their ears as if drowning in sound. Out of the shadows, a voice emerged, dark, syrupy, and cold. "You think you're safe? You're only delaying the inevitable." Lila squeezed her eyes shut, willing the voice away, but it only grew louder. "Your efforts are in vain. I know your weaknesses, better than you do. They will surface at the moment you least expect it." Another tremor rolled through the ground, and whispers began to rise, chanting Lila's worst fears: "Deceivers. Liars. Cowards. Stop." Lila shouted, the words clawing their way out of her throat. She opened her eyes and stepped forward, gathering the strength within her. "This isn't who we are. We are brave. We are stronger together. We can beat this." But just as her words broke free, a bone-chilling chill enveloped the crowd. Everyone in the assembly turned as the shadows began to stretch outward, slithering from every corner. A darkness coalesced around Lila, encroaching on them like a suffocating blanket. the glimmer of hope began to fizzle out, light dimmed, and fear sparked anew. Lila's heart raced. She could feel her resolve starting to waver. What if they didn't make it through this time? What if they truly were alone? Desperation gnawed at her. She closed her eyes again, searching the depths of herself for the piece of light that had ignited their rebellion against darkness. But the shadows pressed ever closer, seeping into her thoughts, into her heart. Just as the darkness pressed in tight, a blinding light erupted from the ground, sending the shadows reeling back. Lila's breath caught, alongside her fellow fighters, a chorus of gasps rising around her. But amidst the brightness, a familiar voice anchored her steady and clear. "Stand firm," it whispered. "Your light is stronger than you know." As the shadows recoiled, Lila's heart leapt with cautious hope, but uncertainty loomed. Would the light hold? In that electric moment, she realized something might be missing, something crucial about the nature of their fight. Well, she thought, fighting to regain control, it's time to figure out what the shadows truly want before it's too late. But somewhere in the depths of her mind, Lila felt another presence stirring. What was it? And would they be ready when the next wave of darkness crashed over them once more? The light enveloped Lila, wrapping her in warmth, but it felt like a fragile shield against the mounting fear that encroached from the edges of her reality. Her heart thundered in her chest as she glanced around the crowd. Those familiar faces were a mixture of awe and horror, eyes wide with uncertainty. This moment of shared illumination, however bright, could quickly extinguish if the darkness reclaimed its hold. "Listen!" she shouted, her voice trembling yet laced with determination. "This light is powered by our hopes, our courage. We can fight together. But we need to remain united." A ripple of doubt pulsed through the group. A young man, his brow furrowed in anxiety, stepped forward. "What if it takes someone we love? What if it turns us against each other?" His fear was palpable, like a shockwave that made every heart skip a beat. Lila stepped closer, meeting his gaze. "We refuse to let fear dictate our actions. Remember what we felt when we fought back before. That strength is still inside us." But as she spoke, shadows slithered back, murmuring like rustling leaves, and the chill in the air seemed to wrap around her throat. She felt the urge to shake off the suffocating grip of despair. Then, the familiar voice echoed through the brilliance, "Lila, trust your instincts. The shadows feed on your fears. You must uncover the truth behind their hold." What truth? Had they really only scratched the surface? The shadows pulsed and flickered, alive with energy. Images of betrayal danced before her, lost friendships and whispered secrets, all steeped in pain. Did they have that much power over her? As if sensing her turmoil, the voice persisted. "You must confront the darkness within, only then can you face it without." Just then, a woman on the fringes of the crowd cried out. "It's back. I can feel it." Panic surged like wildfire as people turned, eyes darting into the fog of shadows that surged to reclaim their space. The atmosphere thrummed with fear, heavy and suffocating. Lila fought the impulse to crumble. "We can't let it take us. We have to bring the light out. We have to believe." She stumbled through the faces, seeking any glimmer of resolve. "Who else with me?" One by one, hands reached out, forming a chain of solidarity. Lila felt the heat radiating from their collective hope merging with her own. She breathed in deep, drawing courage from the growing light around her. They began to chant, rhythmically, their voices intertwining like a cord, together. United. Strong. The ground beneath them pulsated, and crackling energy filled the air. Yet the shadows hissed back, an organism reacting violently to the illumination. Amidst the chaos, Lila's mind raced. What if they're right? She thought. What if we do lose someone? What if this bright moment is just a flash before the storm? Fear clawed at her like sharpened nails, piercing through the unity they were trying so desperately to build. Suddenly, out of the corner of her eye, she spotted a movement. There, like a figure rising from the depths. Someone was stepping out from the darkness. It was distant for a moment, cloaked in shadow, but unmistakably real. Lila's breath caught in her throat. No. As the figure emerged, the crowd stirred, gasps echoing through the tension-filled air. Who could it be? What did they want? And what darkness would they unleash next? Lila's heart raced as she straightened, unwilling to show fear. We stand as one. Together, we can face whatever comes. But the figure lifted its head, revealing a face too familiar yet twisted by shadow. Fear clutched at her chest. Could it really be? Prepare yourselves, the figure whispered, its voice dripping with malice. The real battle has just begun. Lila's resolve pulsed dangerously against the weight of an undeniable truth. Was there hope deep enough to face the depths of the shadows? The battlefield was shifting, and she felt the chaos swirling around her. What new horrors awaited them? Would they make it through the storm, or would darkness swallow them whole? The figure stepped fully into the circle of light, and Lila's heart stopped. It was Emma, her best friend, the one who had bravely fought by her side during the first wave of darkness. But now, she looked different. Shadows clung to her like a shroud, her eyes swirling with a pain Lila had never seen before. Emma, no! Lila shouted, feeling the wave of despair ripple through the crowd. Whispers floated around like the shadows themselves, uncertainty pulsing in the air. People exchanged pleading glances, fear spreading like an infectious disease. We can help you. Fight it. Emma's laugh echoed chillingly, void of warmth. You think this light can save me? You think it can save any of us? She stepped closer, each footfall suppressing Lila's resolve with a sense of dread. You don't know what lurks beyond the light. Lila strained to see Emma, to remind herself of the girl who had stood by her all those weeks ago. You're in there. We're here together. She yelled, battling against the rising tide of panic in her chest. Emma hesitated, a flicker of something was at hope dancing in her eyes before shadows quickly snatched it away. It's too late for me, Lila. The shadows revealed truths we were better off not knowing. They've fed on my fears, on yours too. Gasps echoed through the crowd, and Lila could feel it, the weight of despair and guilt tightening around her throat. No, that's just the darkness talking. She insisted, desperately trying to fight against the chaos building in her soul. We can take it back. Fight back together. Emma shook her head, the shadows swirling more fiercely around her, like a cyclone ready to pull everyone under. You'll lose yourselves. Just like I did. She stepped back, eyes wild, confusion battling with betrayal on her face. Lila's voice broke, trembling with fear. What do you mean? What did they do to you? Emma opened her mouth, but before she could articulate her anguish, a deep rumble echoed through the ground beneath their feet. The shadows froze, and for an agonizing moment, everything hung suspended in time. My strength, Emma finally whispered, despair bleeding through her voice. Your secrets, your doubts, it all feeds them. They thrive on your fears. Every moment of weakness they amplify, every unguarded thought becomes fuel. With a sudden burst, the shadows recoiled, shrieking, swarming back as if caught in the sunlight. But with their retreat came a deafening silence that left everyone exposed. Lila's heart pounded, processing Emma's words. The realization struck her like ice water, they had fought the shadows once, using the strength of unity. But what if it was never enough? What if the shadows were simply biding their time, sowing discord between them? Stay strong, everyone. Don't lose your faith. Lila cried out desperately, scanning the crowd. But even as she spoke, she sensed uncertainty ricocheting through the group, doubts surfacing like dark chasms. We must trust each other. This is the moment we need to hold on to our truths. Suddenly, a cacophony erupted, shadows roared back, murmuring doubts and fears that echoed from every corner of their minds. The chaos surged, and Lila felt it, each word, each fear twisted like knives in her soul. Emma, please. She implored, stepping closer, heartbreaking, join us. Fight with us. You're stronger than this darkness. Emma's face contorted in pain as she reached toward Lila, but shadows tugged at her, whispering lies. I can't, she stammered, panic flaring in her eyes. Lila felt the raw emotion wrenching in her gut. Could she lose Emma? Could they let the shadows win? As Lila fought against the looming despair, she suddenly recalled the voice that had encouraged her earlier to confront the darkness within. It wasn't just about the shadows outside but the ones they carried within themselves. Everyone. Focus. Lila shouted, forcing herself to meet each gaze. We need to share our fears. Unpack the shadows that cling to us. We can face them together. But just as the crowd began to stir, another rumble shook the ground louder, more menacing. The shadows seemed to surmount the light, gathering ferocity. Was it too late for Emma? Too late for any of them? Fight, Lila. Find the truth. Emma screamed, her voice barely carrying above the chaos that raged around them. With the shadows closing in, and a battle brewing within each heart, Lila felt her own resolve teeter. Could they escape this descent into madness? Then, she realized with chilling clarity, what if Emma was right? What if their fight against the shadows was only beginning, and there were far darker truths lurking beneath the surface? As the shadows lunged forward, Lila braced herself for the struggle ahead. The moment had come, but could they emerge victorious, or would fear consume them all? The ground quaked again, vibrating through Lila's feet and launching her heart into a frenzy. The shadows surged, claws of darkness stretching toward her, clawing at her sanity, hungry for despair. She gasped, stumbling back, but something deep inside her screamed for strength. Fight it. Lila shouted again, desperately grabbing the hands of those nearest her. She felt the warm pulse of living flesh against her fingers, spurring her resolve. If they could just hold on to each other, maybe, just maybe, they could stand a chance against this chaos. But the tension in the crowd thickened, and she saw it in their eyes, the doubt, the fear haunting them. Lila's grip tightened, her pulse racing. We are stronger together. Don't let them win. Suddenly, from amidst the swirl of shadows, a figure emerged, a boy named Ryan, someone she hadn't noticed before, standing a few feet away. His face twisted with anguish, he raised a quivering arm, pointing toward the encroaching darkness. They showed me my worst nightmare. I can't fight it. It's too powerful. No. You can. Lila countered, pushing past her own fear. Don't give in. We can fight it together. Ryan's face contorted in agony, the shadows wrapping around him like tendrils of smoke. But what if there's nothing to hold on to? What if the truth is that we're already lost? His voice cracked, spiraling into despair. The crowd buzzed with anxiety. People turned against each other, whispering their doubts. Voices echoed, raising contests of lost hope, each doubt a tether to the shadows. Lila, listen. Emma's broken voice cut through the rising chaos. She stood there, trembling under the weight of darkness, yet Lila could see something shining through flickers of the Emma she knew, fighting for her life amidst the shadows. You have to find the heart of the darkness. Face it. It's the only way. Shockwaves rippled through Lila. Emma's courage ignited a flicker in her chest. The heart of the darkness, she whispered, piecing together Emma's fragmented message. It was more than merely pushing back, it was about understanding what they faced. Everyone. Lila yelled, eyes blazing with determination. We have to go inward. Find your truth. Share your deepest fears. We have to confront what's lurking inside us. The crowd hesitated, eyes darting to the growing storm of shadows. But Lila pressed on, heart pounding. Together, we're a force. Don't let the shadows drive us apart. We need to stand united. One brave voice broke through the cacophony, a girl named Mia, shaking but resolute. I fear being alone, forgotten, she confessed, her voice trembling like a fragile leaf. As she spoke, darkness around her sputtered, retreating slightly as though her truth bore a dagger against the shadows. Encouraged by Mia's confession, another voice emerged, "I fear I'm not enough." Ryan's admission sliced through the air, and Lila felt the crowd lean into the moment, their truths unraveling like storm clouds disperse under the sun. One by one, they began to share. Secrets spilled into the open, fears of inadequacy, loss, love, all feeding the flickering flames of rebellion against the darkness. With each voice, the shadows writhed, containing an agonizing shriek, as if they were on the verge of being extinguished. Lila hoped this would be the turning point, her heart dancing on the edge of belief, but shadows began to congeal again, darker and more fierce, their roars suffocating the light. "It's not enough!" Emma shouted, her eyes wild with desperation. "You must confront your own shadows, the ones you fear to face alone. Only then can we break their hold." Lila felt dread pooling in her chest like ice. Could she truly face her own fears? The shadows thrived on her insecurities, showing her every moment of doubt, every failure she tried to bury. Her breath hitched as a recollection struck hard. What about my family? The guilt of never being enough clawed at her insides. Would facing this fear shatter her completely? Suddenly, a gust of wind erupted, sweeping through the crowd, crashing against her with a force that knocked the breath from her lungs. The shadows recoiled momentarily, but the ground shook, and the darkness thundered back with fists clenched, threatening to swallow them all whole. "Lila!" Emma screamed, "You're the beacon. Find your strength. Remember who you are." Flashes of past memories ignited warm embraces, laughter, courage forged from struggle. The truth surged through her like a tidal wave, beating back the facade of darkness. She could do this. Inhale, exhale. The shadows pressed on, but Lila felt warm light bloom from within her, growing and glowing brighter as she gathered the power of every single shared fear. "Here. Here we stand," she cried, letting courage wash over her. "Together we face the darkness. Together we fight." As the shadows reared again, a crack sounded through the air, darkness began to fracture, and light spilled forth. Would it be enough to conquer the shadows? Or would the lurking fears surge back in a devastating wave, consuming them all? As the crescendo built, her heart raced. Lila braced herself for the fallout, but in that moment, the ground beneath her trembled violently, threatening to shatter everything she fought for. Would their stand hold strong, or would despair reclaim its throne? The ground lurched beneath Lila's feet, shaking like the beating heart of a titan awakening from slumber. A sharp crack echoed through the air, reverberating with ominous intent, and the shadows, dark and twisted, seemed to pulse around her. Panic swept through the crowd, faces turning ghostly under the dark shroud, but Lila stood firm, heart hammering, unwilling to let despair seep into her veins. "Together. Hold on!" she shouted, her voice clawing through the mounting chaos. The crowd trembled, their grip on one another faltering as the shadows writhed, hungry for separation. Lila closed her eyes and recalled Emma's words, "Confront your own shadows." This was her moment. Would she cower or would she dare? "Ryan!" she called out, her voice cutting through the din. "You can do this. What scares you most? Bring it out. We're here for you." With that, Ryan's face twisted in conflict. The fear cloaked him like a shroud, yet Lila saw a flicker of resistance igniting in his eyes. I can't." He gasped, the darkness swirling closer, threatening to encompass him. "What if I lose everything? Then we face it together." Lila insisted, her own fear now igniting a blaze within her. "You are not alone. Share it." Suddenly, the shadows seemed to hesitate, as if Lila's conviction had startled them. Ryan stumbled forward, tears streaking his face. "I fear losing my family. I fear they'll be taken away from me." His confession exploded into the air, radiating a pure energy, as if the walls of darkness flinched at the truth. The crowd gasped collectively, their connection strengthening. Lila felt the tide shift. "Mia, you too," she urged, her voice grounding her like a lifeline. Share what shadows you carry. I am scared of never being seen. Mia sobbed, clutching her heart as the shadows recoiled slightly, a thin thread of light piercing the veil around her. I fear. I'm invisible. Lila's heart soared, they were confronting it. Piece by piece, the shadows were losing their power as the echoes of vulnerability wove a fragile but potent web around them. Yet, the darkness lashed back, their fingers plunging deep into the crowd, seeking to reclaim control. This is futile. A chilling voice resonated, sounding almost like a weak whisper somehow amplified to a roar. You will never be free of your fears. Lila clamped down on the rising wave of despair. No. This is where we draw the line. Keep talking. We're a force. We're stronger than any shadow. With grit in her voice, she pushed herself into the center as the shadows prowled on the fringes, their hunger palpable. One by one, the group began to share their deepest fears about loneliness, heartbreak, failure. Each admission tore at the shadows, fracturing them, sending them swirling into place. As their truths unveiled, darkness shrieked, its cries like thunder, but Lila felt a shift within herself, a deep dread bubbling beneath her own surface. What lay hidden in her heart? Was she strong enough to confront her own truth? The weight of uncertainty pressed upon her, squeezing her chest like a vice, her breath came shallow and quick, memories of her family pulverizing her resolve. What if her greatest fear was that they would never understand her? She squeezed her eyes shut, fighting against the familiar shame creeping in. Lila, please. Emma's voice punctured her haze, show them. You must. We're behind you. In that moment, Lila felt a spark ignite. I am afraid of being alone. Afraid my family won't be proud of me, she confessed, the words tumbling out, each syllable drenched in vulnerability. The shadows thrashed wildly, retreating in agony, but their darkness thickened, multiplying. Filth. You dare unleash your fears? They shrieked, their sinister whispers reverberating in her mind. The crowd gasped again as Lila steadied herself. The illumination from her truth surged, filling the air. We can't run from our own shadows. We must face them. Just when it seemed they were gaining ground, the shadows reformed, coalescing into a gargantuan figure, cloaked in darkness, looming over them. It was a force beyond comprehension, whispering haunting truths that pricked at every insecurities buried deep within. Lila felt her heart thundering, the tension coiling tighter. No. We'll stand united. She shouted, a desperate cry against a heavy storm. But as the dark figure glared down at them, its eyes burrowed into Lila, she wondered, was this their end? Only one way to find out, she thought, emotions clashing violently as the shadows recoiled, waiting to strike. Would they all survive to see another light, or would the fight against darkness consume them whole? With a final surge of adrenaline, Lila believed they could win, but could she truly face the thing that threatened to destroy everything she loved? The shadows twisted, a monstrous figure towering over the crowd, its eyes glinting with malicious hunger. Lila felt the heat of her heart, each pulse vibrating with urgency, a desperate call for courage. Stay together. She shouted, although fear clawed at her throat. Voices around her trembled, people teetering on the edge of panic. They had faced the darkness before, but now it loomed larger, more insatiable. We will not give in. Emma stood beside her, eyes wide, shadows curling around her limbs as if trying to drag her away. It's now or never, Lila. She urged, her voice breaking. We have to confront it. You know what it feeds on. With each whisper of fear from the dark figure, Lila recalled every moment that had pierced her heart, every failure, every shame. The figure seemed to feed on her hesitation, growing larger, more grotesque, its laughter resounding like shattering glass. But in the face of despair, she heard the warm echoes of her friends, the affirming calls of those who still held on tight. We're stronger together. Share your fears. One by one, voices cut through the dread. A town echoed with secrets spilling off lips that trembled with both fear and resolve. I fear I'll never be good enough," cried Mia, her eyes fierce as shadows flared away from her truth. "I'm afraid of losing you all," shouted Ryan, fists clenched as his voice gained needed strength. Lila felt their truths carving a path through the darkness, cracking the surface, and then a roar surged from the shadows. "Fools! You know nothing of true despair," it screeched, lunging forward as terror coursed through Lila's veins. The overwhelming nightmare of what it could take from them felt too heavy. The crowd shrieked in fear as the shadows wrapped tighter around them, yet Lila summoned every drop of willpower. "Enough!" she bellowed, locking eyes with Emma. "You don't have to fight this alone. We won't let it take you." Lila felt the energy ripple through the crowd. Each confession fueled her own light. "I'm afraid my family won't accept me," she admitted shakily, but the shadows writhed, unraveling their power against her words. She was vulnerable, yet tethered to the light that began to glow fiercely. "But I have to believe that we can share love and acceptance regardless of fear." Emma blinked, shadows withdrawing, letting a broken smile through. "Lila, we can overcome this together." The crowd rallied, sharing their truths one after another, echoes cascading through the night. The dark figure trembled, writhing beneath their collective strength. "I fear abandonment," shared another voice. Each confession sliced through the fog, each ripple of concern lighting the way forward. The shadows hissed, their whispers clawing at exposed fears, reaching desperately to reclaim control. "You will fall apart. You can't fight the truth within." But Lila felt the chant rise within her, pulsating with undeniable resolve. "We can face our truths and stand strong." She clenched her fists, the warmth in her heart igniting. "Let us show it we won't back down." Then, from behind them, a sudden light burst, seizing the crowd like a spotlight from above. Lila blinked in amazement as golden warmth radiated across the scene. The dark figure screamed, a sound of pure rage. "No! This cannot be! Come on!" Lila shouted, her spirit flaring with the blazing light. "We're stronger than this together." The figures of her friends gleamed, each face a determined beacon radiating unity against the gathering shadows. For the first time, the darkness trembled before them, faltering, shadows unraveling like threads pulled tight. The figures of light surged forward, illuminating the crowd, their hope soaring higher than the creeping despair. A chorus filled the air, vibrant truths intermingling, spilling out powerful narratives. "We share this strength. We have each other." Then Lila took a deep breath, closing her eyes and sinking into the resilience that pulsed from within. "Together!" she bellowed, feeling the ground tremble. As the shadows howled in agony, the crowd shouted back, "Strong!" Their voices drew a barrier of light, shimmering against the night. Then, in a final conflicted roar, the dark figure faltered, collapsing inward into wisps, vanishing into sparks that ignited around them. All at once, a surge of warmth enveloped the crowd as the last traces of darkness were swept away. The silence hung like a thin veil, hearts still beating wildly against the victorious clamor of shared truths echoing through Maple Street. Lila stood breathless, a new sensation blooming within her, a lighter burden, a sense of redemption. As the first light of dawn broke the horizon, she turned to the faces of her friends. Each one seemed to reflect newfound clarity, freed from the suffocating shadows that once clung tight. They embraced one another, laughter bubbling like spring waters. Together, they had faced their fears and emerged victorious, stronger and more united than ever. In the dawning light, Lila felt powerful, hugged by hope and resilience. Life now stretched before them like the infinite vastness of the morning sky, untouched and waiting. It was a wound healed, a journey embraced. Fear was no longer a limit, but a teacher, a reminder of the strength that lay in vulnerability and unity. Standing there, under the blooming sky, Lila knew this was just the beginning. "Let us keep it alive," Lila spoke softly to her friends, their eyes glimmering with shared courage. "Together, we'll be the light." And as they turned to leave, laughter spilled into the air, a sweet melody of connection, proof that even under the heaviest shadows, hope would always find a way. Now is the time to act. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss out on exclusive stories coming your way. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and help spread that light. And flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about this ending. We want to hear from you. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Every click counts, and only true fans understand how important it is to lift this community up.